All right, welcome everybody. It's an exciting day here, Azusa Pacific Athletics. I know it's a busy week with finals going on and everything, so thank you all for taking time to be here and help us celebrate this moment. So today you'll be hearing from myself. I'm the Sports Information Director. My name is Joe Reinsch. You'll also be hearing from Executive Vice President Dr. David Bixby, also Director of Athletics Gary Pine, and the new men's basketball head coach at Azusa Pacific, Peter Bond. So first of all, before we bring up Gary Pine, he'll be the first one to come up and speak. I just want to talk a little bit about Gary. And you know, a lot of times we talk about signing days and we talk about new coaches and everything like that, and we don't always take the time to appreciate the leadership of our department, Gary Pine. And I just wanted to recognize him publicly at this time, you know, in this exciting moment for the men's basketball program, but also thank him for his leadership of the athletic department, especially over the last year. I wanted to highlight that this year APU has produced 9 teams that either have advanced or are likely to advance to the NCAA postseason. There are another 5 sports with individual qualifiers to the national championships, so that's 14 teams that are sending teams on to NCAA championships this year. That's the highest we've ever had in Division II. This is our 5th season of Division II. So thank you for your leadership there. We've also clinched already the Cornerstone Cup in the rivalry with Biola. There's the final 2 games of that, but tonight with softball taking on Biola, but that has been clinched already. So in the 2 years of Biola being back in the league with us, we've won the Cornerstone Cup both years. And then right now, Azusa Pacific's 29th in the Directors' Cup standings. Looks like, based on the spring sports that are qualifying for postseason, that we're going to make a run at beating our all-time best finish in Division II Directors' Cup. So thank you, Gary Pine, for your leadership this year. I'll talk a little bit about Peter, just give you some of the facts and figures about him and how excited we are to have him. I've been here 17 years as a student and full-time staff, 13 years as staff, and 4 to 6 years as a student. Now, my entire time at Azusa Pacific that I've been here, Justin Leslie has been here. My freshman year, I sat in a class, and Justin Leslie was right next to me. And so my entire experience as a student and working here, Justin's been a big part of that. So when he left, when I found that out a couple weeks ago, that was a tough moment for me. I really respected his intelligence, his humor, and just everything he represented as a coach. He was phenomenal to work with. And so as tough as it was to lose Justin, I'm just as excited to start this new era with Peter Bond, because this is also the first time for me that an alumni who's come through as a student athlete during the time that I've worked here is now gone full circle from experiencing the coaching from a couple of men that I really respect, and Bill Odell and Justin Leslie, to join the coaching staff and then now be responsible for leading that program. So I'm very excited for Peter Bond. He's been here 11 seasons as a coach, as an assistant coach. The record of men's basketball during that time is 242 and 110. That's a .688 winning percentage. 8 of the 11 seasons have been 20-win seasons. They've made 6 national tournament appearances, including 2010. They were NAIA national runner-up, and 2015 NCAA Division II Elite 8, and that was in the first year of postseason eligibility as a Division II program. Peter's been 11 years as a coach and professor here at Azusa Pacific. Last 7 years, he's also been Director of Athletic Development. And you'll be able to read the accomplishments and hear from a couple of other people about him, but the best way I can describe Peter in watching him for as long as I've known him is he's extremely competitive, and he's also caring. So as I thought about how I could introduce him, and the best way I could think of is to say that he's a caring competitor. So without any further introductions, I'm going to bring up Director of Athletics, Gary Pine.
Thank you. You know, whenever an entrepreneur, president, a CEO, any leader takes over, they put together a strategic plan and they think strategically, how can we be successful? What do we need to do to be successful? And they put this plan together to be successful. But there's 2 byproducts that they don't have any control over. They want these byproducts, they desperately need them, but they don't have control over them. They just happen. if their plans come together. And those two things are momentum and reputation. You want reputation that you are good at what you do, your product is excellent. And you want momentum, you want to be going forward. And that's what Azusa Pacific men's basketball is. When you look back at the 25 plus years of Azusa Pacific basketball, it has a sterling reputation. It is a gem of a program, and it has momentum. It is moving forward, constantly moving forward. When you look at the conference championships, the postseason play, the national title runs, when people think Azusa Pacific men's basketball, they think of something very good. Now, something that a coach does have part of is a culture. And when you think of men's basketball at Azusa Pacific, it has a wonderful culture. But it's primarily because of that reputation and momentum that people are attracted to this program. It explains why in the past week, I've had I've had a boatload of contacts saying, I would like to be your next coach. Included in that are former NBA players, NCAA Division I coaches, alumni, great coaches in this area. Whenever there's a change in coaching, an athletic director has to look at two reasons why. It's either new opportunity or a change of direction. Rarely do those two come together. It's one or the other. Sometimes they do come together. This one is all about a new opportunity. Justin Leslie is moving on because as a leader in his family, he has an opportunity to improve his family's situation. We don't need to change the direction of Azusa Pacific men's basketball. Its reputation and its momentum is moving very forward. I didn't need to look outside of the program. All I needed was confirmation that Peter Bond is the right guy and he's ready to go. About 4 years ago, Justin and I started talking about this day possibly. And what was he doing to prepare Peter? And he was doing a great job mentoring him. So about 10 days ago, when Justin told me that he was accepting this position at Midwestern State, I said to him, is Peter ready? And he goes, absolutely. I believe that in my heart, and I expected Justin to say, absolutely. Interestingly, I got a confirmation that was really, truly from God. And I said when this conversation was going, I said, thank you, Lord, for this. Later that day, still, only Justin and I knew that he had accepted the position and he was leaving. I was talking to one of our former players about a coach at another school. I wasn't even thinking about this coach coming to Azusa Pacific. I just knew his name was being thrown out there, and our former player used to live in that area. And I said, what do you know about this coach from this school? He goes, Gary, he's awesome. He's wonderful. He's a great coach. I really considered playing for him, but I wanted to go to Southern California, so I came to Azusa Pacific. But this coach is awesome. I said, good. Because I knew people were looking at this coach, but I was not. When this former player was all done describing how great this coach was, without prompting, he said, but Peter Bond is better. And I turned around and I looked at him, I go, why did you say that? He says, just because I think Peter Bond is a great coach. He had no idea that I was thinking about Peter. He had no idea that Justin had resigned. And so I said, well, tell me more. He goes, Peter is a great coach. He's analytical. He's great relationally. He thinks differently about the game than other people do. And he said, I would love to play for Peter Bond. And so when we were doing that conversation, I walked away and I said, I'm making the right decision. And I saw Peter and I said, Peter, you ready to become the next head coach? And he smiled real big and goes, yeah, I am. It's interesting. A friend of mine and friend of many of you in here is a gentleman by the name of Jeff Rudder. Jeff was a longtime assistant coach here. He's now the head coach at Arizona Christian University in Phoenix. It was about 16, 17 years ago that Jeff was going to Rose Drive Friends Church in Placentia, Yorba Linda. And there was a junior in high school there, in the youth group there, who was playing basketball at El Dorado, who said he was interested in playing basketball at Azusa Pacific, and that was little Peter Bond at that time. And because of the friendship, Jeff began to recruit him. The truth of the matter is, Peter had better offers from other schools, but he wanted to come play at Azusa Pacific because of its reputation and its momentum. And little did Jeff Rudder know at that time that he was bringing on the future of Azusa Pacific coaching in Peter Bond, who has been a part of us now for the past 15 years, 4 as a player and 11 as a coach. So when I told Peter, "You're my guy, I want you," and he says, "I want it," I said, "Okay, now we got to jump through a bunch of hoops." And in a matter of 4 days, Peter had to meet with 8 executives here from the university, 6 of whom are from the President's Council. I had no doubt that he would do well, and he did. Every one of them came back and says, "Wow, I'm impressed. He's the right guy." And it wasn't about X's and O's. It was all about mission fit, the man's heart, his love for Christ, and his willingness and desire to mentor and disciple young men. He is a fit. He is a Cougar. And he knows the Cougar way. One of those people, executives, that he had to meet with was our Executive Vice President, Dr. David Bixby. And I'm very appreciative to Dr. Bixby's support for this, reaching out to our new president, who actually isn't on the clock yet, but bringing in our new president, who also gave a thumbs up to the hiring of Peter. But Dr. Bixby was instrumental in Peter becoming our next coach. And I've asked Dr. Bixby if he would come and share a few remarks and then introduce our new basketball coach here at Azusa Pacific, Peter Bond.
I just asked Peter Bond's son, is that your youngest son? Oldest son, if he wanted to come up with me. And he was having a great time rolling around on the table. And suddenly, it was a deer in headlights, and he said, he still can come up. So I want to start out by talking about leadership. So I think about the history of APU athletics, and I'm only going to mention 2 names, but maybe a little more than that. But I think of Cliff Hamlow, and I think Cliff came here in 1952. I think he was a head coach maybe the year or so after he graduated. And he started a legacy at this institution that extended beyond athletics. It moved towards discipleship and mentoring young men and young women, and that is a requirement of all of our coaches, and that's the highest bar. And so I think of Cliff and others that have come, and in this room right now is Terry Franson, who served as AD and track coach for I don't even know how many years. I mean, Terry's been here, I think, over 40 years. So I just wanted to recognize him and thank him for his leadership and really continue to raise the bar. And then for Gary, I love working with Gary. Just have had so much fun with him. We probably laugh a little too much in our meetings, but it's much more enjoyable that way. But we do get a lot done. And I want to thank Gary for being being the leader of this and actually pushing me to push my new boss. And so we did push him, but it wasn't too difficult. And I was so grateful to Paul Ferguson for agreeing to allow us to move this along. So I think what I'd like to say about Peter and the coaches in this room is for us at APU, athletics is so much more than winning championships. And I've heard all of you coaches say that, and I believe that you believe that. And so my conversation with Peter was first and foremost, I probably broke all kinds of HR rules, but I said, tell me about your family. And Erin, is Erin still in here? Oh, hi there. Yes, you are here. I said, tell me about your family. And he said, well, let me start with my wife. And then he paused because the emotion began to well up because of his deep love and respect for her. And we talked more about his family than X's and O's. Of course, I'm not a basketball guy, so that conversation would be about that long. But Peter is a remarkable human being, and I'm so grateful that he chose us. When we were in the room about to tell the players, I mean, they really needed to know before they left for the summer, which is what caused us to push this along. Also, we knew we wanted Peter. And when we announced it to the team in the locker room, there was just an eruption of celebration and applause. So for us at APU, I talked to a coach probably 10 years ago, and he had a couple tough years. I think they had finished 2-7, 3-8, something like that. And he said, he came to me privately and said, am I in trouble? I said, heck no, you're not in trouble. because you love, in this case, the men that you mentor and disciple. And I said, as long as you keep doing that, we're an open enrollment institution, so we must have coaches that love God first and love people and are mentors to our young men and young women. We must have that. And so I look at the coaches in this room, and I know that was part of the criteria that we put in place to hire you. Certainly we love championships, but for us, developing husbands and wives that honor their spouses, and men and women who grow to be great moms and dads and great neighbors, that is the number one priority for us. And then championships would be right after that. So I think we're getting that in a guy like Peter Bond, and so grateful that he said yes. So I want you to give a warm welcome to our new head basketball coach, Peter Bond.
Well, thank you all for being here. This is, I didn't know what to expect, but I appreciate all the support, and I've truly appreciated all the support all the way along in this process. I mean, from Dr. Franson to Gary Pine to Dr. Bixby to former coaches. I mean, Coach Leslie and Coach Odell have been extremely instrumental in this, and I'm just grateful. I want to be a little bit more sophisticated with the word I use, but that's just what it is. I'm grateful to get to be here. I'm grateful to get to follow the people that have come in front of me, and I'm also thankful to Dr. Ferguson. His role for upcoming for the university is going to be huge, and for him to have a stamp of approval in this process really spoke to his leadership and his commitment to the school and to athletics, and so for that I'm really honored. Along with them, one of the things I have texted as former players have texted me and reached out is I want to thank the former APU players, not just guys I have coached, but guys who have come before me. It's because of them that I am in the position that I am in right now. The way they have carried themselves, both as people, as players, and as people who represent APU really well. If they hadn't been who they were, I wouldn't be in this position. So I thank them. I thank our current players. I have felt for our current players in this process, but they have been so supportive and so had my back, and I want to work hard and plan and do right by them because they have been so supportive. In this process, I have already been labeled the crying coach. I've told my guys the first meeting I had with the guys, I teared up, and I told them that I don't tear up out of sadness, hardly ever. I tear up, and I'm just filled with emotion. Because I'm grateful, because I'm honored, and truly because I care. I care about them. I care about everybody that has come before me, and more than that. And this is where I start getting choked up. I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful for my wife, Erin. She has been so supportive in this coaching path. For those of you that have, a lot of you in this room have been on that path, that is not an easy path for a wife to be a part of. A lot of hours, a lot of commitment, a lot of time to other people. I'm thankful to my parents. My parents are both in the room. My boys, I have a almost 4-year-old Caleb and a 1.5-year-old Nolan. Who just love APU. They just love being here and getting to see smiling faces and getting to be a part of their view of this place. And I thank my in-laws, my father-in-law, mother-in-law, made the trip out here to be here. All of those relationships are so important to me. and so much, I know that I am in this position because of everybody, including them that have come before me. So I'm thankful. I am very thankful, and I know I have a big opportunity and a big role to carry on those people who have come before me, and I do not take that lightly. I appreciate what Dr. Bixby said about caring for the players, caring about the people in the program. I do have very intentional goals of developing young men, both spiritually and personally. But I am also, one of my strengths and one of the things I've learned about myself through APU and the strengths-based learning emphasis they have here is I'm competitive. I want to win. I want to continue to work to be successful on the court, because that is important to the players, and that is what draws them to APU basketball, and I don't want that to get lost in all this. I am a competitor, and I want to win, but all that to be said, thank you to everybody in this room. Thank you to, Coach Leslie played a huge role in all this, in my development as a coach. I got to be in the shoes of the players now. My junior year going into my final year here was when the coaching change was made from Coach Odell to Coach Leslie. And so I've gotten to experience that. And I thank Coach Leslie from the bottom of my heart for what he has meant to me, what he has meant to my family. And so, yeah, I'm feeling extremely grateful, and I really thank you all for being here.
So at this time, we'll do a few questions for Coach Bond, and if anybody in the room has a question, just grab my attention, and we'll make sure to ask him. But I'll get us started here. Peter, what do you see as your biggest challenges in transitioning to this role, and has it been helpful to observe your coaching mentor, Justin Leslie, go through a similar transition when he took over 12 years ago?
Yeah, that's a great question. My biggest, I anticipate my biggest challenge, and again, part of this goes back to my experience as a player with the coaching change, is I anticipate a challenge just being that things are going to be different because I am not Coach Leslie. And I through all this, I really I want to embrace who I am, and a lot of people have given me advice to be who you are in this. Don't try and be somebody else. And I think that's extremely valuable advice. But that is going to mean change for the players, for the program, because we're different people. And I remember going back, 11 years ago when that change was made, there'd be things that happen in practice, outside of practice, that it's like, wait, that's not how we do things. And that's okay. that change and that difference is good. But I know that that's going to be a challenge, and I anticipate that being a bit of a challenge, a bit of an adjustment period for the players and for myself.
Okay. What are any significant changes we might see to Cougar basketball in 6 months, and then maybe for the longer term?
Significant changes. I hesitate to say significant changes because that kind of infers that there was a problem before, and there wasn't. The changes, and I've already met with a number of guys on the team. We'll have some changes to how we look on the court from an X's and O's standpoint. We've got some very talented players in certain roles, and I want to coach to their strengths. I want to do what they're good at, and I think that's really going to bring the team up. And so I think that's one of the biggest changes. I think another change that you'll see is I am going to be very intentional in the spiritual and personal development of the players. That'll be a change in what my plan is. So those are the two changes that I think people can anticipate seeing.
Yeah, and then as one of 6 coaches that have spanned over 6 decades of APU basketball history, and I mentioned it when I was introducing you, but kind of watching you play for Odell and Leslie, how important is your relationship with some of those past coaches, and what are some traits and characteristics in your coaching that reflect the legacy of coaching at Azusa Pacific?
Yeah, those are great questions. I mean, in terms of what I have taken from the coaches and Coach Odell and Coach Leslie and what I have learned and what I so value them as men. I value them as husbands. I mean, I text Coach Odell 2 days ago saying, you know, I want to take him and Gail out to dinner. Coach Odell's wife, Gail, was very instrumental in players in her role as Coach's wife. And I know that she did it very naturally, they did it very naturally, but I know there were intentional steps that they took. I want to learn that from them. I take that from them. From Coach Odell specifically, I loved his consistency. I just loved kind of knowing what to expect from him and knowing who he was, knowing he cared about the players, but more than that, knowing I was going to be treated consistently. And so I take that from him and what he really meant to me. From Coach Odell, or from Coach Leslie, excuse me, he was a fiery competitor. He was, and I love that about him. You know, from a visual standpoint, we will look different, but that fiery competitiveness, and that was a strength of his, I very much have, and I very much love. I care deeply, and I care for the success the players are going to have. I know that success they have and that competitive drive that is in them is going to be a lot of the memories they have. You know, the more success they have on the court, the stronger those memories are going to be of the team and of the program, and are just going to strengthen those bonds. So his competitive spirit, I just love, and I think is fantastic.
Okay. What are your next steps in building for the 2019-20 season, and what are you most looking forward to in that preparation?
Yeah, my next steps are finishing our recruiting class. We've got some very good players signed for next year that I'm really excited about their future, and they're excited about the future here. You know, other than the players that are coming in, it's continuing to foster those relationships with our current players. They have been so good and so supportive in this process. But one of the things I have really taken from this process is I want to do every step of the process along the way well. In the last week, I didn't want to overlook interviews, meetings. I wanted to do those well, and I want the players and myself to continue to do every step along the process well and not look forward to 6 months, 9 months, a year from now, because, you know, we all have work to do, and I want to do that all well in the upcoming months and weeks.
Okay. And if I don't see any more questions, I'll finish with this one. How do you describe your vision for Azusa Pacific basketball under your leadership?
My vision for APU basketball is one of competitive success on the court, is one of strong relationships with the players and the players with the APU community. I think those relational components are so valuable and really make APU what it is. I've told some people this story, but one of my deciding factors in coming here was I came to an open gym my junior year of high school, and I went to other open gyms at other universities, and there was a very clear and distinct difference between how the players here treated me and treated others compared to other places. They were they weren't prompted to, they weren't encouraged to, they were so warm and welcoming to me as a nobody. And that really drew me to here versus other places. And so those relational components and having the guys be facilitators and be spokespeople for the APU basketball program is extremely important to me. And lastly, my vision is to have Jesus Christ at the center of what we do. I'm not going to be apologetic about that. I'm not going to shy away from that. I want Jesus Christ to be the center of what we do, how we do it, and I think that's going to lead us to great places.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys for attending, and welcome Peter Bond.
Thank you.